Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone above the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am a Lunar D8. This is Let's Play Togainu no Chi Lost Blood. Here's a bunch of stuff that's going to go by, probably way too fast for us to read. So, it's like a visual novel type game. You guys saw violence, I guess. I don't know what to expect. Other than this game, I believe was made by the same people who made Chaos Head Noah, I think. Or at least some of the same people worked on it. Let's hop into this, shall we? Double check OBS real quick. It appears to be working. The nation is the focal point of collective identity. So long as they are safe within this symbolic placenta, the people have no need to doubt. Behold the wages of hubris. Okay? The third division. Mankind's Third World War. 20XX AD. At least they didn't write 2024, or else everyone would be like, wait a minute. As it rode the wave of economic expansion that accompanied its shifting national zeitgeist, the small island nation of Japan started down the path of remilitarization. A totalitarian nation, national ideology, control over the citizenry that all but began in the womb, education geared toward producing loyal soldiers, a system optimized for war. Or, so the people believed. Okay? But the nightmare of war far exceeded their predictions, and the terrible scars left in the aftermath made recovery a distant hope indeed. After the war, the survivors, desperate for hope, took the drastic measure of splitting Japan in two, east and west. Why would you split Japan vertically? Why would, with the way Japan is shaped, wouldn't you just split it north and south? Under the direction of their respective leaders, each side began to rebuild. These efforts focused at first on rural areas, which had sustained relatively little damage before proceeding toward the cities, which had suffered by far the worst. This period was marked by a number of dramatic policy changes, all geared with cutting ties with the past and establishing new national ideology. My ear is itchy. I had to make sure I didn't accidentally push that one button on the side of that said. Most iconic among these was rechristening of the former capital dubbed the Old Lands. This blasted city was consigned to the oblivion of memory. Everyone believed that this would clear the way for a better future. 5 years passed. Doesn't look much better. Alas, the cracks from which they had all averted their eyes grew wider in the interim, soon threatening to swallow the whole nation whole. The sudden shift in ideology had left the citizens bewildered, and the abandonment of the former capital had transformed the old lands into a hotbed of crime. The rot was too widespread for the government to contain, and the country was still divided into east and west. One of the two sides would eventually govern all of Japan, but unable to guess at the burdens involved, both hesitated to move forward. Additionally, each side held a different view of how the nation should be reborn. Reunification talks fell apart again and again, and so the future hung on the brink. The brief glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel had begun to recede into darkness. Oh, we're getting a cutscene movie. I can't read this fast. Especially with such a... Was that Squall from Final Fantasy VIII? Was that Itachi but emo? Hi, Squall. I believe that's our main character. Hi, Itachi. Is that Wolfwood from Trigun? I can't think of a comparison to another anime for you two yet. 3, 5. There are so many people. But everyone looks cool. Is that Ichigo's first Zanbakuto? You know, before he... That's not healthy. Like I said, everyone's really snazzy dressed. Also looks like they're all like listening to really good nightcore music. Okay. Death. He thought it beautiful. He remembered the body bags, human shapes swathed like babes in their gentle embrace. He remembered lowering their zippers to reveal the unmoving objects within. That was how soldiers had always looked when they returned to the shelter. He thought them beautiful. To him, they seemed to be asleep. What was death, anyway? The cessation of function. The heart stops, the lung stops, the brain stops. The body falls into an endless sleep. Was that what it was meant to die? But was that all? Was there nothing more? He himself was in no hurry to die. But nor did he have any particular attachment to life. Even if he abruptly died in his sleep, that would be just fine. He tried to imagine him fighting desperately to survive. What would be the purpose of that? What could he hope to accomplish by staying alive? What was the difference between life and death aside from the cessation of one's bodily functions? He pondered these things constantly. Even while watching his first tear through flesh to shatter the hard bone beneath. Well, whatever's happened was painful. I got an achievement. Oh, meet the protagonist. A pleasant numbness spread from Akira's knuckles to his brain, like bubbles in a carbonated drink. The man's knees buckled, and he sank slowly to the ground. The unnatural silence, like a silent movie playing in slow motion, broke the instant he collapsed. All at once, there rose a storm of noise. Noise and more noise. Rough voices clashed in disharmony, stinging Akira's ears. The man had been huge, both taller and heavier than Akira. He had looked down at Akira with eyes that pitied the ant he was about to crush beneath his heel. But that hadn't lasted for long. The match had ended almost as soon as it began. Now the bitter howls of those who'd lost their bets mixed with cries of those thrilled by the victory. Some approached with repellent smiles, asking for comments, like television reporters. Countless fists smacked him on the shoulder as if to laud the return of an old war buddy. This also kind of reminds me of a manga called Holy Land. Maybe I'll put a link to that as well as a link to the playlist that I made like 4 months ago. Sort of a compilation thing. Naked light bulbs swayed in the dimness, conspiring with the shadows to make the spectators stand out oddly. The crowd was gathered in one corner of a filthy back lot. All were young, though they ran the gamut from those who had never seen blood before to those who had seen too much. They were all here for one reason, to witness a competition of strength. Shaking the blood from his fists, Akira pushed his way through the onlookers and headed for the cool depths of the alley, as if to flee their clinging eyes. He did not even spare a glance for the man he had just defeated. The air he inhaled was chilly. He pulled his jacket a little tighter around his neck. As the noise of the crowd receded, Akira felt like he was stepping into a different world. About 3 blocks away was the spot where blaster participants gathered to rest from the fighting. Someone had scrawled restroom in red marker on the wall. Several youths were already there, smoking or drinking cheap booze, as they chatted amongst themselves. Most were participants in tonight's contest, but there were also among them retired fighters who had come to boast about past glory. To an outsider, they would look like a gang of delinquents, which was, more or less, precisely what they were. Akira walked past the others, lounging on the roadside, then sat down in his usual spot, by the back wall. As he enjoyed the feeling of the cool asphalt through his jeans, he felt a sigh escape his lips. That last opponent, he was nothing. Akira hadn't even broken a sweat. This is how it had been for a while now. No one had been able to so much as bloody his lip. Which was why the more fired up his audience got, the more empty he felt inside. He was there for the prize money, nothing more. Letting out another sigh, Akira leaned his head against the wall and cast his eyes up at the sky. Tonight, there was a lovely full moon. Keine Liebe, ich bin. After World War III started, it had been years before people could look at the sky. During the war and in the immediate aftermath, most of the population lived in colossal underground shelters. There, children were separated from their parents and raised to be perfect soldiers. They were taught to kill, to die. Glory to those who slay our enemies. Your life belongs to your country. Yet the war ended before those children ever saw battle. And the next thing they knew, the very same nation that had called on them to kill and die was asking them to forge a bright, loving future. The reversal was all too reckless and all too sudden. It began with the forced establishment of new family units. Normally one might think that the children would have returned to the parents from whom they had been taken. But this was not the case. Parents and children who had never met were assigned to one another at random and forced to live beneath one roof as a family. Of course, there was no way these families could function. Abuse, neglect, and violence ran rampant. These children had been taught nothing except how to fight. How were they supposed to feel? What was love, anyway? They had no one to teach them the answer. Their parents were hardly up to the task. In their confusion, the children turned to battle. They had been taught that defeating one's enemy was the greatest possible glory. But the war had ended before any of them could put their training to use. These children needed a place to test their strength. How did it feel to fight for one's life? What could you see at the edge of death? As if pursuing the answers to those questions, the lost children clashed with one another on the street. Soon these became known as blaster fights. The government of Japan deliberately turned a blind eye. although they passed new laws to make it plain that deaths would not be tolerated. And so Blaster thrived. It began on the CFC side and quickly spread to the Nikakuren as well. Rules took shape and soon both group and individual fights were being held. Japan's youths were starved for battle, and Akira was one of them. At the sound of the approaching footsteps, Akira lowered his gaze from the moon. Two lanky silhouettes stopped in front of him. Hey, Akira! The man with the yellow mohawk, which Akira thought made him look like a rooster, grinned and raised his hand.
Yeah.
Yo. The other one, a sickly-looking guy with long black hair, peered down at Akira with a smirk. Each of them was holding a bottle of booze. Akira had few acquaintances, but these were two of them. They had been hanging around him ever since he started coming here. He ignored them first, but they kept coming. Before he knew it, talking to them had become a regular thing. Hey, Akira. Heard you won again. I know it was a one-hit KO. Damn, man. You're crazy strong. Ace, the one with the mohawk, approached with his distinctive one-leg dragging gait, then plopped down beside Akira. Wish I'd seen it. It was Ace's fault we didn't make it in time. D, the long-haired one, stood in front of them with a wide grin on his face. After giving D the finger, Ace triumphantly thrust his bottle at Akira. It looked like beer with a red label. Know what this is? Akira had no interest in booze. He shook his head brusquely, causing Ace to purse his lips. Jeez, you're down. Well, this here's a real, rare beer. It ain't easy to find. It's crazy expensive. I heard you won. I asked my guy to take one up. Yeah, but Akira doesn't drink, right? Rocking back to look up, Ace waved his hand dismissively. No problem, no problem. It's the thought that counts, yeah? The loyalty I'm showing by splurging to celebrate Akira's win. To lost. Ignoring Ace, D raised his bottle high. Hey, asshole, wait till I'm done talking, would you? Now you fuck the whole thing. Ace leaned forward, eyes bulging as he lashed out. You took too long, got bored. Come on, hurry up and do the toast already. Ace shot a glare at the smirking D, then cleared his throat a bit. Okay, let's try this again. To lost. Ace hoisted his bottle overhead, clinked it against D's, and downed the beer in one gulp. Lost was Akira's alias to Blaster. No one remembered who to come up with the name. Somewhere along the way, it had simply become the norm. Akira didn't mind. Names meant little to him. Wow, that's some good shit. D shrugged his shoulders and took tiny sips as Ace laughed heartily. Breath reeking of alcohol. Didn't get to see him this time around, but the other guy was pretty buff, huh? Guess you took care of him real quick, like always. In this sector, Area Ray, Akira Lost was known to all as the undefeated champion of the individual bouts. Once upon a time, he had looked forward to these fights, but the enthusiasm of those early battles had vanished long ago, and now, not even embers remained. These days, he approached every fight with the same sense of a foregone conclusion. He was there to earn a living, that's all, And because there was nothing else he wanted to do, he wasn't even all that interested in the prize money, as long as he had enough to meet his meager expenses. Akira had no dreams, no goals. He stayed alive only because he felt neither the need nor the inclination to die.
しかもよ、
Hey,
また蹴ったんだって
I heard you turned down another
今度は
offer from, who was it again? Someplace famous.
本堂グループ
The Hondo Group?
あ、そうそう、それそれ
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
さすがよ。
What a waste, man. Ace smacked the palm of his hand with his fist and jabbed the index finger D. From time to time, corporations scouted and blasted fighters who had earned recognition on the circuit. By and large, they were connected to the underworld, Yakuza, or private security. But in this day and age, having someone to pay your way was worth a lot. Most fighters jumped at this chance. Wouldn't that technically make you a mercenary at that point? I don't know, it's kind of the idea, like, what's the difference between a civilian and a non-civilian? And I guess technically, you're a civilian unless you're part of any sort of militarized group or authority. So I guess, one, if you joined in the actual military, like Air Force, Navy, Army, Marines, Coast Guard, even National Reserve, even the reserves, even if you're not, like, even if you're just the reserves, that still counts as not being a civilian anymore. Technically, some belts in, like, karate and kung fu, or, like, jiu-jitsu, or even some classifications as a boxer, you might be considered not a civilian anymore, because certainly when you get certain training, you're considered that your hands are lethal weapons and stuff. So it's considered the same classifications if you use like a knife or a gun. I also say if you actually are a mercenary fighting in wars and stuff, or even just like cyberpunk sort of mercenary, you're not a civilian. I'd also say if you've joined any sort of cartel or gang or mafia or yakuza, you're not a civilian. Who else would count as not a civilian? I guess anyone who's committed like something like a murder of somebody that wasn't like self-defense. Would that count? Wouldn't technically like CEOs and people in charge of corporations count? Because I mean, at this point, what's really the difference between a really large corporation and a government? I mean, they're both militarized forces, aren't they? I mean, heck, Elon Musk has his own, like, NASA equivalent. Heck, I think Elon Musk's SpaceX is doing more in outer space than actual NASA now. Does that mean Elon Musk would count as not a civilian? I mean, technically, he has a militarized force available to him, doesn't he? I mean, it's not like his space shuttles have lasers they shoot, right? What is the line there? What? How do you define that? Huh. I guess police officers wouldn't count as civilians anymore, wouldn't they? Like, a police officer wouldn't be a civilian, even if they've never been part of the actual military. I mean, that wouldn't be a civilian anymore, wouldn't it? What about a federal agent, like, FBI, CIA? What about the Secret Service, people that protect the president? I mean, now granted, a lot of the people that are probably FBI probably were in military, or like army and stuff, and the main point is this. There's probably lots of people that went to an armed force, like the army or the military, the army or navy or air force or marines, and then went into FBI or CIA, correct? Then again, I don't know how that works. I don't know. Getting a little bit of cough again. Also a little bit of acid reflux, I think. Yeah, who else wouldn't count as a civilian then? Because like I said, I would say if someone joined the Yakuza, I mean, technically, Yakuza is a militarized force. I mean, it's a group of people that is prepared to use violence in order to do what they need to do. So, I mean, wouldn't that be any group of people that has access to weapons and is prepared to use violence? Would a private militia count? Then again, those are extremely rare nowadays, really. Huh. I mean, I was in Boy Scouts, but that definitely wouldn't count because that's not a even remotely militarized group. Also, it's not a thing I have anything to do with anymore. But yeah, Boy Scouts wouldn't count. But yeah, would being a police officer, would that make someone not a civilian? I think so. I mean, technically you have access to military training. I mean, you technically are. I mean, just the only difference is, like, what is it? I can't remember the name of the law. There's a law that says that you can't use actual U.S. military soldiers for police work in America. I can't remember the name of that law. It was like, they came over like over 200 years ago. It was to prevent government corruption or something. I mean, there's more to it, but I don't know enough. I don't remember enough to say. I can't remember the name of the law. But I mean, technically, I mean, in the same regard, you can't have police be outright militarized. I mean, unless we're like martial law or something, you're not going to have police officers with fucking AK-47s. I mean, that would be a little bit disconcerting. Then again, things would probably have to be like really chaotic in a city in order for things to get that bad. But I'm just saying, I mean, a police officer is somebody, even if they've never been in the military before, they do at least get physical training and combat training and have a gun, and are in situations where they're putting their life on the line and may have to potentially kill others. Same thing with people in the FBI or CIA. I mean, you having to be put in a situation where you might have to potentially hurt somebody else or be hurt yourself, or worse. Though I imagine a lot of people probably go in the FBI, probably were like in the Marines or the Army first, or like Air Force or Navy or something. But it's probably not a requirement. But it probably helps. But I mean, that definitely wouldn't count as a civilian anymore. Then there's a question, what about politicians? I mean, a politician wouldn't count as a civilian because, I mean, you wouldn't count a politician as a civilian anymore, right? Because they're actually part of the government. I mean, they actually have, you know, quote-unquote authority about what to do with military. Though, depends on what kind of politician, what you do. Because, I mean, some politicians, it's just, you know, like senators are just supposed to be, you know, helping to make the laws. They're not really enforcing them. But, like, take the president. The president can, you know, issue orders whether we're going to war and stuff, or military strikes. But then again, it's also like, there's stuff that doesn't go to him all the time. Because, I mean, after all, there's so many military operations that the U.S. is probably involved in a constant basis that, I mean, there's no way one individual person could be informed about everything. That would be very time-consuming, very overwhelming. You'd have to have an entire group of people just to help, you know, keep that information straight, because that would be really confusing. Then there's the idea of this. What's the difference between a soldier and a warrior? Because technically that's kind of what the people here are. More so warriors. They were kind of trained to be soldiers, but they're warriors instead. Because I remember somebody saying, like, the difference between a soldier and a warrior. Guys, I have to burp into a microphone. A soldier is somebody who just... Granted, a soldier and a warrior are both capable people in terms of both physical and mental strength as being able to fight in any sort of way. Which I am not. I'll say this, I'm absolutely 100% a civilian. And I am no threat to anybody. Hell, I can't even go jogging without giving myself fucking hamstring tendonitis. And... well, I'm often criticized for being too non-aggressive. What can I say? I'd rather not fight anyone if I ever have to. I'm not good at it, and I don't enjoy it. But, yeah, I would say both soldiers and warriors would be people that are both physically and mentally stronger than I am in terms of when it comes to like combat and stuff. But I would say the main difference between a soldier and a warrior would be a soldier is just somebody who follows orders. Whereas a warrior, they're not following orders, they're following their heart. So a soldier will fight whoever they're told to based on who their commanding officer tells them to. They're just follow the orders, do as you're told. A warrior would be somebody who, it's not an order that's making you do stuff, it's you're doing stuff based off of not only your logical reasonings and your thoughts and what you want, but your heart, your thoughts, and your feelings. Though I would say, regardless of which you are, you would have to have somebody with a lot of mental discipline and self-control, regardless of which you were. But I'm neither. I'm a nerdy, lonely otaku who plays video games and annoys other people on the internet. But yeah, definitely this game does make a point for that, keeping families together with the biological parents, in general, I mean, heck, look over the decades, the increase in divorce rate between people. I mean, not only does that suck for the parents, but I mean, think of the children that actually grow up in those situations where their parents are divorced. They get robbed of having a stable family. And a lot of it's also you're supposed to learn from what the people around you. The idea is if you're a child, you'll see loving parents who are loving to you and loving to each other, and it helps to form normal, not only an understanding of how you're supposed to be as a person and how you're supposed to interact with other people, but also it helps with your own emotional stability and well-being. Basically, you learn how a healthy relationship works, and you learn how to have bonds and connections with other people. And by also having loving parents who are not being, because at the end of the day, yes, it is certainly possible for people to have healthy families that are results of divorces or like multiple parents or multiple broken families marrying that were in previous divorces previously. That's true. But statistically, it's much less likely to succeed. And even if it does, it does put a lot of trauma through people, because there's the people that go through divorces, and then of course there's the children. And a lot of times parents wind up getting separated from their children, and children keep getting separated from their parents. Both the parents in that situation and the children in this situation wind up becoming emotionally damaged from this. And if you have an entire society where everybody is isolated and separated from one another, and everybody's got basically an epidemic of loneliness, and then everyone's basically been through situations where they're jaded and sort of paranoid and hurt. I mean, if everyone in society is like that, that's gotta have a cumulative effect over time as it builds up over and over to lead to a very almost disinterested society. Almost like apathy. Yeah, that'd have to be a good way to put it. Because another thing, people wind up not having those bonds, so they wind up having to find meaning in things that are outside the real world. Heck, see that all the time. Don't get me wrong, I love anime and video games, but it does seem a lot of times people will dive a lot more into, heck, there's people that are not obsessed watching Twitch streamers and such, which again, don't mind. I mean, that's awesome. I enjoy watching Twitch stream stuff. It just, people desire some sort of friendship, people to talk to, and heck, I'm one to speak. I'm a lonely person who doesn't really have very many people IRL to talk to, so I annoy people on the internet, even if no one's actually listening to me rambling to myself. But still, sometimes I'll have various comments and discussions with people on the internet, just trying to... And I'll say this, I don't think I ever try to piss anyone off on the internet. I'm just trying to have discussions with people because I just generally like talking to people. But it does kind of get weird at times because, I can't... there's a lot of things that you can convey in facial expressions, body language, and even just in tone of voice that you can't convey in text. So it feels like there's a lot of layers to communication that gets lost. But I'll say this, it does seem like a lot of people, granted maybe, I talk about this a bit myself, I feel a bit isolated just because I really haven't had a lot of people I really talk to in a long time, let alone a relationship in a long ass time, and most of the stuff with families tend to be falling apart with everybody. But again, it's not just me. The divorce rate in general for the whole world, and even the relationships that aren't, marriages tend to go badly. Heck, all the IRL people I know have relationships. I can't say any of them really turned out the greatest. And even the ones that did turn out okay, I'm I'm seeing things about how they would talk about certain things, and I haven't seen or heard from them in years. I assume they're alive. But but yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think it's important for children to have stable families. Now, of course, if the parents aren't getting along and one person's a psychotic, abusive person, I'll say this, anyone in a relationship out there, it doesn't matter what the nature of the relationship is. It doesn't matter if you're married, if there's a family, children involved, or anything like that. It doesn't matter what gender you are, or it doesn't matter what sexual orientation you are. If you are in a relationship with someone who is abusive to you, you need to get out of that relationship. That is not healthy. And what do you define as abuse? Basically, physical abuse, but also emotional abuse. Basically, if you feel scared of your partner, if you feel like your partner is constantly making you feel worthless, or saying absolutely horrible things to you, or threatening you, or threatening to do horrible things to you, or threatening to kill you, or is physically attacking you, or is yelling and throwing things into the wall, or, has ever attacked you and left a scar on you. Obviously, if you have questions about this stuff, you should probably talk to, whether it's stuff about whether you're having a bad issue with your relationship, or you're just, say, really depressed, or thinking about very negative things that people think about sometimes during depression. You should talk to, somebody that cares about you. Family, friends, relationship partner. And if you don't, well then still, very least you can do is just take a nap, listen to some music, play a game, do something you enjoy, and just give it time. Eventually you'll make some friends or something. But even if there's no one else out there who really cares about you, then at the very minimum you can care about yourself. And like I said, you should always try to make some way to improve yourself and better your life, but at the same time, you shouldn't push yourself too hard, and you shouldn't base your worth over it. You should be kind to yourself. And again, also maybe not take advice from a crazy guy on the internet. I am not a doctor or psychiatrist, though I would recommend, if you do feel any feelings like I've described, or just at any point if you feel like you identify with how I feel about things, you should probably see both your primary care physician as well as a psychiatrist. So both kinds of doctors, both the physical biology doctor and a doctor about, psychology and psychiatry. But main point is this: I'm just saying for people to be nicer to themselves, and don't be so harsh on yourself. Don't just do what you can, and even if you have to take things day by day, don't expect to improve on stuff immediately, and don't expect improvement to be constant. There's going to be, like, if you were to track your progress at certain things over the course of months, you'll notice that it's not going to be a straight slope up. It's going to be going up and down. Like, you're going to have bad days. It's going to happen. You're going to have some really good days. Most of them are going to be so-so. You might have more bad days than good days. But that's no reason to give up on anything. I'm just saying, if you could, just be kind to yourself. Heck, if anybody's actually listening to this, I wish you the best, and I hope you get whatever love or happiness you need. And if for whatever reason it seems impossible or completely out of reach for you, then I still say just don't give up. You know? And I really do hope that whatever the situation is for you, that it gets better. I'm sorry I don't have anything better to say other than just a lot of times just don't expect things to get instantly better. You have to give it time, and as time goes on, it still might not feel like things have really gotten any better, but yeah, just don't be hard on yourself, okay? You have to, just do what you have to, just get through the day. Even if you're not sure what will happen the next day. And I hope that's good advice. But again, I mean, whoever you are out there, I mean, I hope you have someone better to go to than me. I mean, I'm not exactly anything but a failure as a person when it comes to everything. So I don't really know if my advice counts for anything. But all I can say is this. Whoever you are out there, if I could, I'd give you a hug. Though granted, that's a bit selfish on my part because I need a hug too. So, but I'm just saying, I wish you the best. And don't give up, okay? You have to buy a body pillow and hug that body pillow, okay? But yeah, I'm just saying, you look at modern society, I think that's the biggest thing that's been an issue with culture or like society. I mean, heck, if you look at the news, everything's getting more and more violent, both in terms of national stuff as well as local stuff. And that's basically what happened here. Granted, it's a World War III thing, but who knows? We'll have that soon in real life, which would be absolutely horrible. But at the end of the day, I don't have a fucking say in it because I am just a random guy who plays hentai games. And like Grand Theft Auto and stuff, video games. I don't have anything to do with fucking Washington, D.C. or what happens in the world. Whatever they do when it comes to like, you know, nukes and shit, I can't do or say anything. All I can be like, well, I got this 2 liter of Pepsi, I'm gonna drink something. But yeah, that's the thing, it's just... fuck. But I'd say, yeah, the nuclear family, like the idea of having a core family, it's important for people, because here's the thing. If possible, you know, for people to have... Now again, I'm glad I'm divorced, because it was a shitty situation I was in. But I don't regret it, because no matter what, I'm very much extremely thankful for my son. But yeah, let's say it turned out to be what would be considered a normal family. But yeah, I would say generally when it comes to society, if you have lots of people, like if the entire society where like everyone's getting divorced, to where like nobody has any confidence that if they get into a marriage, the other person will love them, be kind to them, or that they'll have any sort of protections or anything that makes their life better because of it, and they feel that they're guaranteed to get divorced, and that things will go badly, no matter what happens, that even if they stay married, the circumstances will be different than what it was in their grandparents' time. That would basically, anything that you would have that would be a good thing is basically stripped of you. Basically, just, I'm saying that in general, I think it destabilizes society. Having everyone just sort of not be a coherent family unit. But then you read the same thing in both 1984 and Brave New World, and in lots of very similar stories. Basically, you have a situation where you take the kids away from parents and the government basically becomes the parents. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't have a society if, couples don't have any kind of bond, and if parents aren't there for their kids and children don't have parents because here's the thing, I mean, yeah, in this fictional situation, all the people basically have foster parents. I mean, at the end of the day, heck, we don't even think these foster parents are actually in relationships with each other. And they've also gone through a time of great economic and political change and turmoil and poverty. I'm just saying it'd be very unstable, and I mean, kids growing up in such a situation, how are they supposed to properly learn, one, how relationships work, how to interact with one another? And it's one thing if one person has this issue, it's just, and each person's going to have a little bit of a different issue with it, which they're not going to be bad people, but they're going to have either a little bit of mistrust or trauma, or they'll just be more isolated and alone. But if you have an entire society, I mean, heck, look at nowadays, I mean, especially after everything that happened with the whole pandemic where everyone sort of locked down for a bit and everyone sort of stopped talking to each other. I mean, I was never an extremely sociable person, but it's just, I noticed that it's much more difficult to even do anything sociable, let alone I noticed just the average person nowadays is just sort of isolated and alone. That most, like, here's the thing, almost all my social interaction is, fucking internet. Because there really is no people out there in the physical world for me to interact with in a way that wouldn't have any sort of negative consequences. That there is no situation in which I can interact with people out there in which I can expect anything good. Then again, that could also be multiple negative circumstances reinforcing negative expectations, as well as just so. But then again, a lot of it, I think it's also as a society, like it's more difficult. Then it's also maybe just because I'm older. Part of me feels like I'm just too old to actually be going out there and talking to people or interacting. And even then, it just, like, I remember how it was trying to talk to people in the past, and it seemed easier. Like, they were more open to it, but it seems like everyone out there is more, I don't know, closed off. Like, everyone's more paranoid. Like, everyone's more agitated, more likely to, I don't know, jump at each other's throats. Like, everyone, like, no one wants to just calmly have a discussion with each other. Heck, especially people that get into political shit, it's like no one wants to just have an understanding with each other. That you can be friends with somebody or respect somebody, even if you don't agree with them on their political beliefs. And as I burp into the microphone again, and perhaps regretting eating something spicy earlier, I'm just saying maybe eating a few hot peppers like that was kind of a bad idea, but still. I'll say this, I like ice spicy food. I don't like chocolate, but I'll never mix the two. But I like them separately. But, yeah, I'm just saying, it's important for people to have interpersonal relationships, whether it be not only for their own parents to be together and having a healthy, happy relationship where they're one together and also not being violent or whatever. Like, it's not good for anyone at any age to be around people that are yelling or confrontational. I mean, you want to feel like there's a place where you feel safe, where you feel wanted, where you feel accepted, where you can feel comfortable, where you can talk about whatever you're thinking and feeling, and it not be all of a sudden potential fucking nuke. Like, you suddenly talk about something and it turns into a massive fucking argument with yelling and the potential for violence. Like, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a family or a relationship or a friend. You shouldn't feel like when you're talking to someone you have to like dance on eggshells to avoid certain topics or avoid disagreeing with someone or else they might turn violent. I don't know. Heck, to a degree, I kind of feel the general people. Then again, I kind of also feel like me too. Like, I feel to a degree my attention span's kind of gone to the wayside, as well as I feel like I'm not as smart as I used to be. Then again, I just feel like I look at society and I'm like, it really worries me. I'm like, what's gonna happen with everything? It just seems like everyone's so aggressive and hateful, but then again, maybe it's always been that way. Maybe that's part of the reason why I sort of withdrew from it. It just doesn't seem to be any way to have any happiness from it. But I don't know. You guys get what I mean. You guys agree. People are more isolated than ever now. That people are more alone. Or maybe I'm just a complete fucking loser. That I'm just... It's like, yeah, but that's Lunar D8, the guy who just talks to himself and then plays video games where he talks to himself but records it. I don't know. Like I said before, the Steam things where they have the pictures for the characters, like, this one's pretty cool. It's like the Squall guy with his hand against like a metal wall and he's like smearing blood against the wall. Like I say, I like art, I like music, I like stories. Heck, I'm the kind of person that I have an obsession with the macabre, like Edgar Allan Poe, horror stories, and stuff like that. But I would never want to hurt anyone. And I'm the kind of person, like, I want everyone to be able to like play video games like Halo and Halo 3, like really great campaigns. But I would never want anyone to actually... I'd rather a world where there's no war. Where there was no war and no one fought anyone and everyone lived happily. But we could play like video games like Halo. Have little cussing matches as we shoot imaginary sprites on a video game. And drive warthogs off of ramps at ridiculous speeds. To see how much we can try to get them to spin. I don't know. I really do need to stop just going off on random rambling tangents, but like I say, I want to talk about things. I want to talk to people. It's kind of like in the YouTube comments. I talk to people. I never try to piss anyone off. I just want to talk about what's on my mind. The point isn't for them to agree with me or for me to force them to agree with me or see. I just want people to understand me and just to be able to talk. I'm trying to be sociable, okay? And at least another thing, at least on the internet, you can talk about just about any subject. Whereas in real life, you can't just go up to someone and start talking about like tentacle hentai in the middle of public. I feel that would be a little weird and make people uncomfortable. And I'm the kind of person that if I'm talking to someone in real life, I'm not going to want to make them uncomfortable. I'm trying to be, like, I at least understand how to do normal human conversation. It's just that a lot of stuff I think about, you can't talk about out there. And a lot of times I don't even have access to talk to people half the time at all to begin with. And when you do, it's for a very limited time, and there's a very sparse amount of topics that you can talk about, and only to certain degrees. Because, there's certain things that are just considered, not socially acceptable, especially around certain people. Whereas here I can talk about anything because I need to be able to talk about it. Well, let's continue the game. If you were good enough, you might even get an offer from the world of pro sports. Unsurprisingly, Akira had no interest in this. He'd need more than one hand's worth of fingers to count the invitations he'd refused up until now. The Hondo Group recruiter had looked as if he had been trying to advertise his Yakuza's ties. Akira recalled his gaudy... I don't know how to pronounce that. No, wow? Reach? I have no idea what that even means, or how to pronounce it. Dress, but not his face or what he'd said. Akira was only here because he didn't mind fighting. He'd never given any thought to his future. If he ever ran out of prize money, he supposed that he could always find work as a day laborer. He saw no need to think any further ahead. Ace and D, who would automatically keep the conversation going, whether or not Akira had anything to say, were actually rather well built, despite their gangly looks. Their nails were black with dirt and grime, and their knuckles bore the telltale signs of a street fighter. Was the money really worth the sweat and blood they'd shed? Either way, there was no shortage of blaster participants, looking to get rich or just to let off some steam. How about we team up the group championships, yeah? We call ourselves the Ultimate Dumbass Brothers or something. The fuck? D's bottle was almost empty. Even though he'd been taking little sips, and he waved it as if he joked around, Ace laughed brusquely. They were nearing full-on drunkenness. How alcoholic was that bottle? I mean, granted, I understand I don't drink, but still. Speaking of Ultimate, I want to try being like... I have no idea how to pronounce it. Pasikoshka? Just once. Is that... I'm not even sure what nationality that name would be. Ace wiped tears of laughter from the corners of his eyes as he murmured dreamily. Pessy? Akira wasn't familiar with the name. It must have shown on his face. Huh? You're kidding. I assume he's a famous fighter, but as soon as they noticed Akira's confusion, the two friends' eyes were wide. Don't tell me you never heard of Peshki Koshka? Even little kids know about... Okay, it's a tag team people? Like, you said them. Maybe. No way. No goddamn way. A Blaster Champions. Never heard about, but hey, who am I talking about to, right? You with your head always up in the clouds. Akira scowled, feeling like an idiot. Even he knew when he was being made fun of. As if it pleased him to have one up on the champion, Ace put on a gleeful smirk and wagged his index finger from side to side. I'll be a gentleman and explain it to you, Chief. Pepsi was a team from Area Coast, led by this goof, Coat. They totally ruled the scene a while back. They were like you, undefeated, nobody could touch them, the ultimate team. Ace balled his hands in a trembling fist, as though recalling the excitement he'd felt back then. Come to think of it, Akira had a feeling he'd heard the name before, but he couldn't recall where. They were monsters, alright, in more ways than one. D's interjection wiped the grin off Ace's face. But I guess the main thing I was trying to say earlier is that bonds between people, whether it's family, relationships, parents, children, friends, romantic partners, heck, just people you talk to in general. But most importantly, very close, intimate relationships with people that you really, 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 really love I think are very important to not only the healthy development of a human mind, heck, not only that, the healthy continued development of a human mind as they get older, but also I think is necessary for mental health. I don't think prolonged isolation and loneliness and, I don't know, lack of feeling loved or wanted or cared about or respected is good for a person's mental well-being. And if you have an entire society where a lot of people are experiencing that, that society can't last like that, can it? If there's a lot of people who are just feel abandoned by the society and alone. Because like I said, especially children, you don't have a nuclear family sort of thing. You don't have, and again, it's not guaranteed, but it's just in general. It teaches kids how healthy, normal relationships work. It teaches them love. It teaches them how to interact with others. And not only does it give them that healthy bond between the parents and the children, as well as friends and family, and especially if they get a relationship early on in life, but also it can deal a lot with personal, emotional insecurities of the person. Like, it can definitely lead to a lot of issues with people if they grow up and not sort of have that emotional security from having proper interactions with people. But even then, everyone can have different definitions of how that would work out. But the main point I'm just saying is that having a healthy family is obviously more healthy for a person to be in than being in an unhealthy family situation. And having a situation where you would take all the kids away from their natural parents, and you have a society of people where parents have lose their children, and children lose their parents, and everyone basically is isolated and alone, and feels like there's no one who cares about them as a person, and that their only value is, okay, how good are you at punching this other dude in the face in a back alley, and how much money can you make off the government? I mean, if your only value is just how much money you have and what kind of utility you are and what can you do and how much money you have and how violent you can be and how good you can be, like how much money can you have and how good are you at killing other people? I mean, if your value as a person is that, I mean, who cares about you as for you as a person? You know, like, it's more important for someone to care about you, to love you, to value you as a person, your bond with them, based off being idealistic as opposed to opportunistic. Like, it shouldn't be about how they benefit from you, off of like, oh, I get this, I get that, like, oh, it should be, or this person can hurt that person, or I can use them this way. It should be like, hey, this is that person who's really close to me and I really, really love them, care about them a lot, and they mean a whole lot to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic? Then again, everyone would be like, nope, you're just a lonely, creepy otaku who is both horny and depressed and just wants a hug and wants affection and love. I'm just saying, I definitely would, like, you know, feel loved and cared about and wanted and respected and feel safe. Like, all of those are very important. I don't know. I guess it's just listen to the lonely otaku bitch because of what a fucking loser and a failure and a reject of a person I am. Hi, I'm Lunar D, the defective human being. I suck at everything, and for no distinct reason. Like, there's no, like, oh, it's because of this or this. Like, no. It's not like there's anything particularly wrong with me, I just suck. But hey. You get used to being alone. Then again, I'm an adult and I still like stuffed animals. So, I like listening to music. I'm just saying it's important to both, especially children in the younger years, to have a healthy family and to not only learn how relationships and how to interact with people and how, but also that, again, I think growing up in a healthier family unit brings a more emotional security for that. And I think, especially in modern times, we've kind of lost that. And don't get me wrong, I love the fact that we have anime and video games and stuff, but I do feel like a lot of people have just, like, their best friend is a fucking television. Because, like, a lot of times I feel like the TV screens, whether it's a video game TV screen or the computer screen or even making the Let's Plays itself, and talking to the random people on the internet, whether it's through me right now with the microphone in front of me, or it's typing comments in various messages of different forums, all sorts of people who have very different opinions and stances from one another. But then I'm the kind of person who wants to try to understand where it's come from, and also for them to understand where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to be sociable, just trying to talk to people. But, and like I said, there was a time where I was still actively going out there and trying to interact with people out there. I just can't say it really worked out the greatest. Oh well. One, I would say type such and such thing if you feel a certain way. But I mean, who am I lying to here? Why would anyone have clicked on this video to even listen to it to begin with, let alone listened this long into the video of me being a random fucking dumbass saying my stupid bullshit? Oh well. I don't know, maybe that's the first step of being a Let's Player, being fucked in the head. So. Hi, I'm Lunar-D8, I'm fucked in the head. Who else out there is fucked in the head? I don't know, if you're listening to this, you at least understand what I'm trying to say. Type Pepsi in the comments. Also, the name of any sort of game you might want to suggest that you think is cool. It doesn't even have to be a game that's on Steam to be able to play. Like I constantly mentioned Brave Fence Musashi, the best game ever made for the PlayStation 1. It's not on Steam, but it's a great game. Yeah, just tell me, now Graham, if you know a game on Steam you want me to play, I'll consider it. I've said it before, I promise nothing, I guarantee even less, and the only thing consistent about my channel is complete and total lack of professionalism. But, yeah, like, heck, if you have suggestions for bands, for animes, or heck, if you have an idea for a legal supplement that I could take that would help me heal from, I think I'm healing okay from hamstring tendonitis, but just, I don't know. I feel disappointed in my lack of ability to, I don't know, build muscle or lose fat or be athletic in any way. I don't know, maybe one day in the future I actually will start taking antidepressants. Doctors have wanted me to take those things for a long time now. Maybe one day. I just wanted to avoid that for a long time. Now I'm not really sure anymore. I don't know. I should stop getting distracted from things. I'm just saying that whether we're talking like the nuclear family stuff or long-lasting relationships or heck in general, I mean, whether it does, like I said, it doesn't matter what gender or sexual orientation you are. Being through a lot of But yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. Being through multiple relationships where things turn out badly, I think negatively affects people. Heck, it'd probably be best if everyone could just find one happy partner to be with early on in life when they're still teenagers and be with that person for life. But like I said, same regard, if you're ever with someone who's abusive, you need to get the fuck out of that. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what's going on. There's never an excuse for a family member, a friend, or your romantic partner. It doesn't matter if it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband. Doesn't matter who it is. There's never an excuse for your partner to be violent to you, or to be yelling at you, or constantly insulting you, or telling you you're worthless, or how much they hate you, or threatening to kill you, or trying to kill you, or throwing things into a wall, or attacking you physically. Just saying, if for whatever reason any of you are any sort of not safe circumstance, you should leave that circumstance. Whoever you are, you deserve to... One, you deserve to be with somebody who loves and cares about you and respects you. But definitely, most of all, you deserve to feel safe. And you deserve to be able to not feel like... I don't know... an anxious ball of nerves, walking on eggshells, trying to basically do everything you can not to make the other person explode, or feel like you're not allowed to really even exist. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if any of this makes sense to anybody. I'm just saying, most of all, be kind to yourselves. Make sure you're not in a situation that you don't feel safe in. And the most important thing is to love yourself, as well as I take a big swig of this Pepsi. A couple months back, I temporarily stopped Pepsi. At least I don't drink energy drinks and shit anymore. That job at Skynet was really tearing me up. Oh man. One, my knees had this one problem from the way I was working, because I was constant standing manual labor, having to move really fast, doing these weird spinning, like half semicircle turns, or putting way too much torque on my knees at weird angles. So the first 2 weeks I sort of had to just heal that, and I started trying to jog a bit, and my lower back really couldn't fucking stand it. Plus I tried to do a little bit of deadlifting, but honestly, it was the impacts from the jogging that was too much for my back to handle. Then again, that's also because I'm a fucking fat ass. What am I, 215 pounds? 5'11"? And it's not like it's all muscle. Fucking big ass fucking Pepsi gun here, people say. But I did try a little bit of intermittent fasting. Well, definitely that wasn't going to work very well. Just saying, I have goals on things. One of which, we kind of need to have a six-pack. But will I ever accomplish it? I hope. So take another swig of some Pepsi from the 2-liter. But, all things in time. I'll keep working at it. Like I said, I won't be doing the jogging because, like I said, at first the back had a problem, then I kept pushing on it, and had the muscles on the side of my shin had a problem, and the shins themselves, and then definitely feel like what I looked up, the lateral meniscus of the knees, the ligaments of the knees, may have gotten tiny tears in them. Heck, I think I might have either just really bad shin splints or some very small micro stress fractures in my shins, where like I feel pain in them. At least that's mostly gone. And just issues with my hamstrings. as well as the tendons and the hamstrings. Heck, the parts where my hamstrings connect to the glutes, as well as to the under part of the knee. Definitely weird feeling, but I think it's mostly recovering. I'll get back into doing a lot of walking and elliptical, and we'll take it from there, and I'll just take that stuff slow. And like I said, I still want to accomplish my goals. I just feel discouraged that it's something I'm going to have to force myself to take slower than. But then again, part of me's just in a rush to not feel like such a fucking failure. Whatever. You guys, I think you guys know what I mean. But yeah, I'm just saying it's heck, important movies. I think like Jim Varney's movies, the Ernest P. Worrell, as well as Jim Carrey. Not just like Ace Ventura, that's a pretty good movie too. There's two of them, in fact. But I think more importantly, Cable Guy. Not the Larry the Cable Guy from the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, but he's pretty funny too. But I'm thinking Chip, Cable Guy from the movie The Cable Guy, Jim Carrey. It was like back in the 90s. It's a movie I'd suggest for people. I'm just saying, I think normal, happy, healthy families is good for the people, not only the parents, but I think it's also very good for the children of the family unit. And it's good for society, and it's good for the individuals. And helps the children growing in that situation to understand how to interact with others and how to have healthy relationships themselves. Plus, it gives them a much more stable emotional well-being and a feeling of belonging and acceptance. I'm just saying, I think it's the traditional nuclear family is, I think, better for children and for society. And heck, I think it's better for the parents. But only, if the people in that aren't abusive. But I'd say, no family or friendship or relationship is going to be free of all arguments. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be times people don't see eye to eye, but that's why you work things out. But there's a difference between like an occasional small argument as opposed to one. There are certain arguments, if they're like so bad and so big, like an argument should never get really bad. And I'm not even saying, if it gets to the point of being violent. Regardless of what's going on, if it gets to the point of being violent, something has really gone wrong to the point that it's probably not salvageable and should be ended immediately. But at the same time, it's like if there's really big arguments, or if there's constant fighting, there's a huge problem. But in a normal relationship, there's bound to be some fights and disagreements here and there. But in the same regard, if you have a relationship and there's no fights and no disagreements at all, that's not a reason to end a relationship either. Now, it might be a reason to try to have a few more discussions of things with your partner, because there could be something else going on that could warrant being discussed, that could become a problem later. That would be a much bigger issue. But in general, getting along really well with your partner is not a bad thing. If there's no fight or no fights and no arguments, that's not a bad thing. In some situations that could mean that there's something underlying, like maybe they have an insecurity about something that you need to discuss with them. But it's not an issue even then, even if that's the case, for a relationship to end. I'd say the only times a relationship really should end is if the other person is, hitting you or threatening you, or, you feel scared of your partner, or if they're hurting you, or especially if they're cheating on you. I would definitely tell anyone out there, That would be absolutely unacceptable. Though, of course, I understand everyone's got their unique circumstances of things. And of course, there's situations where a lot of times you might be trapped in a circumstance and you don't have any power. And that fucking sucks. And like I said, there's more circumstances that can possibly exist than there are hairs on the heads. I'm trying to think of a really hairy person. I feel like Chewbacca doesn't count because it's a movie character. You guys know what I mean. Just saying this. In general, I don't know. I want everyone out there to be happy. Because I mean, I know what I want in life. I'm just saying, not only do I want that, but, you know, those same things that I want, I wish those same things for everyone else. Whether or not that's possible, I really have little confidence in. But it doesn't change the fact that I feel that it's important for a person's well-being. Then again, it's better to be alone than to be with someone you feel scared of or don't feel safe around or who makes you feel worthless. Heck, there's lots of people out there that are in relationships that are more alone than people that are alone. And another thing is a lot of relationships that turn out abusive, they don't start that way. Most abusive relationships start off perfectly healthy. And later on, when it becomes abusive, it's not like the person's going to be abusive 24/7, constantly being violent. I mean, I don't know. It's a hard thing to explain. Again, even in people who do have relationships where they have a partner who turns out a certain way, each person's situation is unique and different, and the circumstances around it are often challenging and I don't know, overwhelming in very different ways from one another. And I'm really not qualified to help anybody. I said I'm just a random dumbass talking about a bunch of bullshit that nobody would fucking care about and nobody would be able to relate to. And like I said, I doubt any of it's actually any good advice. At the end of the day, I'm just a sad, lonely otaku guy who just needs to talk to somebody, and I'm talking to this imaginary wall inside this video game. I'm drinking some Pepsi. Okay, let's continue on with the game. D's interjection wiped the grin off Ace's face. Yeah, they also had a real bad rep. Did some awful shit like it was nothing. So what you're saying is, you want to do some heinous shit like they did? Huh? D grinned maliciously, crossing his arms. That ain't what I said, Ace Hal, waving his hand theatrically. I just want to be as strong as them, dumbass. Ow! Ace slammed his fist down against the top of D's head. Didn't you hear the story of my heroic battle with the cops, dude? You're the one who ought to cut that creepy long hair. Patting his injured right knee, which he claimed often had been wounded in righteous battle against the forces of tyranny, Ace reached out and seized hold of D's hair. Ouch, ow. You say that, but they only chased you because they saw you grab someone's purse. What's so damn heroic about that? D wailed, pulled forward by his hair. Leaning against the wall, Akira watched their antics with a detached eye. He didn't mind being around these guys. They did whatever they wanted regardless of how he responded. It was much more relaxing than being with people who were always gauging his reaction. He didn't care to have others tell him where he belonged. If they thought he was going to play their game of superficial friendship, then they were doomed to be disappointed. He had never said out loud, but apparently it showed in his demeanor. People picking baseless fights with him had become just another part of his day-to-day life. Hey, Akira! Help me out here! Ace is the biggest dumbass, right? Guys, just fucking chill. With his parted hair captured on both sides, D shot Akira a desperate look. Akira didn't mind hanging out with these guys, but of course everything had its limit. Sighing, Akira reluctantly opened his mouth. Relax. You're the same. That was probably the first thing Akira had said since coming to this sector. As if they had planned it, both of them looked at Akira at the same time with the same expression. They even mirrored each other and how their shoulders slumped crestfallen. This drew laughter from the scattered onlooker, who watered in during the show. Looking up at the sky, Akira returned to his thoughts. Even if the moon vanished one day, things would be just fine. Even without its light to guide them, those who crawled to Earth would find some way to get by. In the place, there was rest from the strain of living. That was why Akira kept finding himself here. Soon Ace and D recovered, and the sound of their banter once again filled the comforting darkness. Only an hour or two after falling asleep, the thunderous bang of the door crashing in tore him from his precious rest. I think I've already gone on long for a while in this. How do I save? How do I save the game? Footsteps pounded hard as the music got louder. Make his bed swing straight, dragging Akira out of his slumber. How do I save the game? Do I press escape? No, I don't want to quit the game. I want to save the game. Where is the save option? Wait, do I pull this? Nope, that doesn't. As half asleep state, he couldn't process what was happening. This was Akira's apartment, a tiny room in a rundown building. Empty bed for a bed. A refrigerator and a small lamp. The floor and walls were bleak concrete. To Akira, who needed a little more than a place to eat, sleep, and shelter from the rain, it was a perfect room. Comfortable and empty of meaning. Who had shattered his peace and quiet. Probably someone he'd beaten looking for revenge. It wouldn't be the first time. Too lethargic to rise, he remained sprawled in bed, even as he sensed them coming up beside him.
Oi, Akira!
Hey, wake up! A split second later, someone seized the front of his hair and yanked his head off the pillow. Well, you guys are jerks. Two men in black uniforms. They weren't from Blaster. The one gripping Akira by the hair looked high-strung, with slicked back hair and a thin face. The one standing behind him was well built. What is occurring here? Both were wearing white gloves and had clubs strapped to the waist. Cops. Seeing Akira's glare, the thin-faced officer let out a snort of laughter. Got something to say? Yeah, why are you here? Also, supposed to knock first? I'm sleeping. Couldn't you, knock a while and let me wake up? Without letting go of Akira's hair, the man punched him hard in the face. You're coming with us. Police A. For what? He had no idea. You're wanted for murder. Murder of who? What? Murder? He looked at the well-built officer. Sure, you don't have me confused with someone else? Though the post-war chaos, I bet, had at last begun to calm down, the system was still full of holes. False arrests were hardly unusual. What did you say? The thin-faced officer's temple twitched. Let go. He tried to shake free, but the man only gripped tighter. Shit, kids these days have no respect. You think it's okay to talk to an officer like that? Narrow eyebrows rise, and the thin-faced policeman contorted his lips. No point playing innocent, you'll just add more charges to the process. You're lost, right? Guess you got tired of your kiddie fights, huh? Graduated the real thing? Worthless piece of shit. If they knew his alias, it meant they also knew his reputation in the streets. He doubted they had a positive image of the master. Knowing he was a champion, they probably thought he was some kind of psycho. Don't think you're hot shit because you're famous in those little street fights. I didn't do it. Akira snapped his voice low. The thin-faced officer grabbed him hard by the jaw and jerked their faces together. His eyes were full of contempt. You can make your excuses at the station. Okay, then let go of my hair so I can put my shoes on and walk to the station and explain what is happening. I don't even know who I'm accused of fighting or killing. I mean, I fought lots of people. What, did the really tall guy hit his head hard on the ground when he fell down? What happened? With that, he released a thank you. Released Akira's hair and stepped away. Immediately, the well-built police officer seized both Akira's arms and dragged him out of bed and pinned his arms wide. How am I supposed to put my shoes on like that? Are you going to put my shoes on for me? Is it cold outside? Can I put on my coat? Let go. As Akira attempted to shake him off, thin-faced police officer clubbed him in the back. It was a merciless blow, knocking the breath from his lungs. Get a move on, will you? Grinning, the thin-faced officer leaned forward and tapped Akira on the side of the face with the end of his club. The officer behind him hauled him to his feet, then marched him through the front door. Even more than the false accusation, it was their attitude that infuriated him. They probably hadn't performed a real investigation. He didn't normally give a damn how his country was run. But that didn't mean he was about to let these cops walk all over him. Huh? What? As soon as Akira was through the door, he heard a familiar voice. Turning, he saw a friendly face, eyes and mouth agape. Hi, you! It was Kaisuke! Frozen in place with his hand stretched toward the doorknob. His coveralls were so stained with black that it was hard to make out the original color. Out of the way. The thin-faced policeman shoved him aside with a club. Hey, wait up a sec. Coming back to himself, he staggered. Kaisuke laid a frantic hand on the shoulder of the officer restraining Akira. The officer flung him back with so much force, Kaisuke staggered again. For a second, he looked shocked, but then his anger flared. I said, hold on, what did Akira do? You want to spend the night in the cell? Asshole. Kaisuke dove at them, but the well-built officer shouldered him away. Akira. The power of the blow was too much. Kaisuke collapsed with a groan. Come on, get walking. Akira looked over his shoulder as they dragged him along. Kaisuke was watching him, face screwed up in pain. Even after the officers forced him to face forward again, Akira could sense Kaisuke's eyes staring helplessly at his back. How do I save the game? I don't want to make a 5-hour video. The cheap rusted steel desk rattled beneath the detective's hand. In the light of the desk lamp, his face looked... I didn't get to read that! I accidentally clicked... Gani Mata? Okay, how do I go backwards? Well, you just confess already. Nope, that's... Tab? How do I do anything? What buttons do things? Okay. Tapping the S button saves the game. Cool. We're going to close it here. I don't want to make too long of a video. Bye, everybody.